As many of you are well aware, the fine folks over at IK Multimedia have recently announced the pre-order for their new Tonex Cab FR style speaker that's going to help expand the Tonex ecosystem. I can tell you, for one of the few people that actually have one in their studio, this is a really killer product. And a couple things that I wanted to talk about to answer some questions I've been getting about it is how the controls sound, the bass, middle, treble, and amp tone you see up on your screen, how those are going to affect the sound of the tone model or the model that we have plugged into Tonex Cab. And we're also going to today showcase for the first time this first look at Tonex Cab Control Editor software that is going to be included and pair up beautifully with your Tonex Cab so you can edit it right from your computer. This is great news. And with the upcoming Tonex Pedal Editor that's going to be released very, very soon, this is just going to be a great system. So let's first of all take a look at Tonex Cab Control. I'm going to take you through all the steps of what it can do. I'm going to let you hear the direct recorded sound of what's coming out of the back of Tonex Cab. This is going to be important for a lot of folks who want to feed that to front of house. Now, we have two options on Tonex Cab. We can set it so that any changes we make to the processing on Tonex Cab do not get fed out to front of house. So we can have it so we could adjust bass, middle, treble, amp tone, and whatnot, just so we hear it as a monitor on stage, but our pure tone of our tone model from Tonex Pedal, let's say, if that's how we're using it, will go straight to front of house. Or we could have it set so that the changes we make to our Tonex Cab on stage can also be fed to the front of house, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So first things first, we have this nice small Tonex Cab Control app. We'll come up to our little hamburger button in the top right here and then work our way down. So if we click that, we see that we have four tabs: Library, Firmware, MIDI, and Info. So Library is going to allow us to either be able to export the library of presets that we've saved here, which we're going to talk about in a moment, or we could import a previous library that we had exported, or we can just import the default library. This is going to give us the option to be able to upgrade the firmware as well. So whenever we need a firmware update, it will notify us of that when we open Tonex Cab Control, and we can do a quick firmware update here. We can also come to the MIDI tab, and we can decide whether we want MIDI through, on, or off. And then we also have an info tab, which is going to give us the current version that we are running. So moving down here from top to bottom, we have our preset button. So as we know, Tonex Cab can store up to 8 presets. Now you might ask what a preset is made up of. Well, it's going to be made up of different settings of the bass, middle, treble, amp tone, possibly an IR loaded in there, and we can store that to Cab. So when we make settings, we can choose where we want that stored. So I'm going to pick number 1 here, and you'll see, yes, it's stored now. So if I go to number 2, everything's flat, but if I come back to preset 1, it stores those settings. A really nice feature here is being able to just double click to reset those to 0. I could then come in and restore that to Cab, and then that's not going to change anymore. So we have these 8 presets that are going to be very handy to mess around with. Now we also have bass, middle, treble, and we have this control called amp tone, which is supposed to mimic more of an amp in the room type sound. I'm not really going to give my comments on that. I'm going to let you hear what this sounds like when coming out of the back of Tonex Cab direct. So we'll do that in just a moment. Now we also have the ability with this little menu down here to load impulse responses. So if we click our folder open, we come down here, I can choose an impulse response, and it now loads in there. Now, if I move out of that preset, it's going to warn me that I can either discard those changes or save them, right? So I can discard that, move back, it's not going to be there. But if I decide to load that back up again, and I store that to Cab, then every time I come back to that preset, that IR will be loaded. We can also choose to enable that IR or disable that IR. So we can keep it loaded, but just have it disabled. Again, store that to Cab, and our settings will be remembered. So that's really great stuff. We can also just trash that IR if we so desire, and have things set back to normal. So that basically covers the ins and outs of what Tonex Cab Control is going to allow us to control on our Tonex Cab at the time that I'm making this video. But let's take a listen to how this sounds. I am sitting here with my beautiful Gibson 335 guitar, one of my favorites, and I'm just on a flat preset. Now my setup is I am plugged directly from my guitar into Tonex Pedal, and I am playing a preset that is from my brand new, that I just did a video about yesterday, Vicious Kitty Ultimate and DI collection, which is based off of my killer Bad Cat Cub 5 hand-wired boutique amp. These tones are just beautiful. I'm just going to bring this back to mic here. So some really sweet tones there, and I'll have the link to that whole collection below if you're so inclined and you like what you hear in my demos today. So my setup again is basically my guitar into my white anniversary Tonex pedal with this new tone model I created, loaded on a little touch of the Tonex delay on there. I'm coming out of the output of Tonex pedal straight to the input of Tonex Cab. I'm then taking the Tonex Cab output straight into my audio interface. Now there is a switch on the back of Tonex Cab that's going to allow us, as I've mentioned, to either send through to front of house only what's coming off our pedal. So let me show you that. I'm going to go back there and switch it. So now on this setting, as I play, any changes I make here will not have an effect on what's coming out. So what you're hearing now is Tonex pedal plugged into the cab, but then passing straight through the front of house, in this case, my DAW. Now, with everything set flat and amp tone on mic, if I switch this over so that it feeds out the process signal, here's what we get. We're basically feeding out the exact same sound. So we have that possibility. So the reason is amp tone set to mic is going to basically disengage the amp tone. As we roll it more to live, it's going to create this more what they're calling this amp in the room type of a feel. But let's keep it back here for a second. Now, one big question we get with this is whether or not the volume control on Tonex Cab to adjust how much volume I'm hearing here in the room actually affects the output. And I'm happy to say that it does not. So I can adjust my volume on stage independent of what the front of house is going to get. So in the room right now, I have the volume on 0. I'm just monitoring off my studio monitors. But if I roll this up now, you'll probably pick up a much louder signal on my vocal mic. As you're probably hearing, but I don't want that for right now. I just want to be able to hear what's coming to my studio monitors. So let's do just that now that we've switched this back over. So there's the DI signal. Let's see what that bass control does. I'm going to bring it all the way down to extremes. Obviously, I'm going to extremes on purpose to let you hear what this is doing. But what a nice musical way to be able to tweak our tone really quickly from the cab itself or cab control software. Let's go to the mid control. Listen to this one. Find the EQ changes are quite musical and not so dramatic that they're really destroying anything, even when we go to these big extremes. Try the treble. So that gives you an idea of what the EQ is capable of and how you can tweak things to the front of house. And we'll also hear those changes on our cab. Now let's listen to the amp tone. So as I mentioned, when it's set to mic, this is just basically as the sound is coming off of Tonex pedal. Let's go all the way to live to go to the extreme. Nice thing is it's a dimmer switch, right? So we don't have to go all in on it. We could go halfway. And I really think this was more designed to be listening to the actual cab in the room. I'm not going to do anything where I mic the cab up. I don't really think that gives you any impression of what Tonex Cab actually sounds like, because you're going to be hearing the mic pre and everything else that's going to be used to record that. So I just wanted to give you an idea from listening to this DI what these various controls actually sound like. Again, just back to the original. And if you find that you don't really like this on the DI sound like this, you may find that you like the sound of it in the room or not. But the beautiful part is we can just tweak this however we want. So what we can do here is we could come in here and, mess around and try a few different settings if we so desire, and store that as setting number 1, and then come in and just A/B that against maybe some alternate versions of that. I could hit store to cab and store that to number 2. And then that's going to give me an easy way to go back and forth between those. Or I could go to bigger extremes. So you see, we can switch between these fully controllable via MIDI live and have quite dramatic setting changes, not only on our Tonex pedal, but also on our Tonex Cab. So I hope that that was useful and helpful and answers a lot of questions that I've been getting about how Tonex Cab is going to work and what the onboard processing is actually going to sound like as far as bass, middle, treble, and amp tone. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it was helpful. Please like the video and share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. I'm going to leave you today with the full demo video of a full production utilizing my new Vicious Kitty Ultimate and DI tone models for Tonex. The links are in the description below if you're so inclined and want to grab a copy of those. They are available now on my website. Don't think you'll be disappointed. Really cool set of tone models based off of an incredible hand-wired Bad Cat Cub 5 amplifier. Absolutely love those tones and I had so much fun using them to put this together. Hope you enjoy the music on the way out. Thanks again for sharing your time with me. Ciao for now.